Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise Interviews, an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship.
Through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising.
And our weekly franchise radio show, where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisors, franchisees, franchise authors, experts, and attorneys. And don't forget to listen to our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919.
That's 610-905-2919.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews, an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 15 years now, we've been asking the Frantrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show today. Well, we're meeting with Jesse Coslov, the founder and CEO of The Dog Stop. And The Dog Stop provides premium services and retail experience for dogs and their owners. Their one-stop shop focus allows pets to enjoy boarding, dog daycare, grooming, and training, all within the confines of one facility. We're going to talk to Jesse about that in just a moment on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we have a great show.
Franchise Teacher.
Would you like to know how to franchise your concept or grow your franchise business?
Meet the experts at Franchise Teacher.
The goal of Franchise Teacher is to teach, coach, consult, and advise. The team of experts at Franchise Teacher will evaluate your business model and present you with a winning business strategy.
Franchise Teacher will help you decide whether or not your concept works and if it's franchisable. Franchise Teacher is proud to have over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors.
Franchise Teacher are developers of over a dozen franchise systems, which include brick and mortar as well as home-based concepts of nearly 3,000 combined franchise locations.
Whether you need to add more units or get more customers, Franchise Teacher can help. We will teach.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn our proven system.
Coach.
Franchise Teacher will help you provide a game plan to succeed.
Consult.
Franchise Teacher will make sure you stay on track.
And advise.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn from our over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors. Take advantage of our free, no-obligation phone consultation. Simply go to franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
That's franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, LLC, and you're listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 15 years now, we've been asking the Franchipreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, and I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show today. We're meeting with Jesse Coslov, the founder and CEO of The Dog Stop. And The Dog Stop provides premium services and retail experience for dogs and their owners. And let's go right into our interview with Jesse Coslov.
There you go. Hi, Jesse. How are you? Welcome to the show.
I'm well, thank you, Marty. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Jesse. It's great to finally have you on this show. We would like to ask our guests, where are you calling from today, Jesse?
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Oh, fantastic. It's nice to have, we're actually in Easton, Pennsylvania, Jesse, so we're about 300 miles from you.
Yeah, I was going to say, other side of the state. Wonderful.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, throw off, Jesse, I thought, maybe we can go back to the beginning because we started the show 15 years ago and we found that, every franchise seems to have a fantastic story, and your story seems to go back to 2009. Maybe we can go back to that time.
Sure, absolutely. It really, my ideas probably started before that, but it kind of all came to fruition in 2009. I grew up, always had dogs in my household, at least two of them throughout high school and college. I volunteered at rescue organizations and I made the leap, much to my parents' chagrin, to get a dog in college. And, I really became very, very connected with my dog and realized I, wasn't alone, as the dog had kind of taken this position of almost like a child in my life. And I noticed it happening to, everyone around me. And as I started exploring, looking for places that I felt comfortable taking my dog for, the necessary services of boarding and grooming and training and finding the retail products, I felt that there was, a lot that was left to be desired. I kept running into what I would hear were industry standards, which were just roadblocks for me as a dog owner. And I decided to try to, come up with a better version of it. There were really three key elements that really were offensive, if you will, to me, or roadblocks for me, being comfortable. The first of which, and largely still exists to this day, I find in the industry, is a lack of transparency. I think for people to be, 100% comfortable, they have to, feel the trust, feel the love, and by providing complete transparency, that's the easiest way to do it. So, at the Dog Stop, you walk in. It doesn't matter if you've been a customer for 5 years or you've never been there before. You ask to take a tour. Within a few minutes, we're going to get you in the back. We're going to show you around the facility and let you see exactly where your pup is going to be playing and staying. Piggybacking on the transparency, customer service, for whatever reason, was lacking. And this industry as a whole often treated customers as if it was their privilege to pay the kennel to watch their dog, when in fact every other service industry is the opposite. The customer's always right. What can we do for you? How can we, help you out? And really the transparency and the customer service were the two foundational elements of the Dog Stop. And then as we started exploring the industry more, I knew it was a big frustration for me that, I had found 4 different places that I really liked to care for my dog, one for boarding, one for daycare, one for grooming, and another for training. But, in a busy working individual schedule, you often don't have time to, source 4 different places and then, to visit them on a regular basis. So the idea kind of came into focus as, okay, I'm going to create a one-stop shop for all of the pet care needs and just ensure that there's that 100% transparency and best possible customer service. And the rest is kind of history. We opened up our first store. I do have a business partner who was instrumental in this and getting this off the ground with me. We opened up the first store in 2009. It grew very, very quickly. Had people coming from much farther away than we anticipated. And as we started talking to them, they kind of echoed exactly what we had set out when they said, we're here because you gave us a tour on the first day and you've treated us like family. And customer service has been incredible, and it's a one-stop shop. So, and as the industry is grown, I think, all of those elements are even more in demand and people's time is extremely valuable. So that convenience and accessibility to all the services under one roof is really what makes us unique, but also I think, makes us so valuable in our pet parents' eyes.
At what point, Jesse, did you know, I guess, that you were ready to franchise? So you started the concept in 2009. And it's interesting in doing the show 15 years, a lot of times we hear from a lot of like the founders of the organization, that people will say, are you a franchise or, I wish I owned one of these. How did you know when you and your business partner were ready to franchise the concept?
So, one of the elements that I think makes our brand and really anybody who's looking to get into pet care specifically successful is, you have to have a local tie. You have to be part of the community. Right. People aren't, looking for some big, corporate entity to be caring for their pet. They want to, again, they want to feel the love and they want to know who is in charge and who they're dealing with. So as we developed our first 3 stores here in the Pittsburgh area, we knew we could, certainly develop a few more in Pittsburgh. But as we thought about, how do we expand and continue to grow this, I was very concerned that, if I opened one up in, in Easton, PA, and you're 300 miles away and you come in and you take the tour and you love it and you come to find out that the owner lives on the other side of the state, it's kind of a strike one right out of the gate that's a little bit of a concern. Right. So it was that concern paired with a family friend who I had always known but didn't really know what he had done, and ran into him one day and we started talking, and it turned out, he had been very successful in franchising for a long time, and he said, hey, let me come down and take a look at your business, spend a day with you, and just see, how, at least in my mind, this would potentially work as a franchise and how it, could fit into, is it easy replicable, and can we document all of this? And, is the price point right, and all of those things. So once, meeting with him and doing a lot more research on the industry and really thinking that made the most sense for, how we could grow this business and ensure that pet parents, wherever we open up a dog stop, would still have a local owner on the ground who is really part of the community and could really kind of be the champion of the brand for us in that individual market. We decided to give it a go, and we've always, much like we do things a little differently in pet care, we've tried to do things very differently in a franchise space as well. Again, luckily, our kind of advisor impressed upon us the importance of taking things very slowly, slow and controlled growth, and also making sure you put the cart ahead of the horse and having a much bigger support team in place than you would ever need. Don't sell first, build the team first, and then worry about location. So we were very fortunate to have a good advisor in the early days.
It's amazing how you've grown up with dogs your whole life, and so have I, Jesse. But, it's interesting how, dogs and even pets, I guess, in general, have, elevated in society. I tell a story of I had a friend recently that got married, and in the wedding pictures, she had her 2 dogs in there as the family picture, and it's just interesting how the dog has elevated in society, and your service is really so important. You were talking about the significance of trust, I mean, is that, someone goes on vacation, they leave their pet. I mean, they're worried, it's like leaving a child, so, I mean, your service is so important. And, it's interesting because you provide a lot of different services too, Jesse. I mean, maybe, you could touch upon, all the different services that the Dog Stop provides.
Yeah, I mean, our real goal and mission at the Dog Stop is to help pet parents, dog owners, be as loyal to their dog as their dog is to them. And, it helps, and we're able to do that through lots of services that we provide in store when obviously you're not available, whether you're at work or traveling. But we also try to expand upon that and also give you the tools to be a better pet parent when you're at home with your dog or at the dog park or walking down the street or wherever you may be. So that's really where the full service model comes into play. Obviously, overnight boarding, is what most people think of as kenneling. When you go away on vacation, you need someone to watch your dog, so you drop them off. Our experience is a little different. All of our boarding stays include full days of doggy daycare, so your dog is not just in a room. We're a cage-free facility, so the dogs have rooms, not cages. So the dog is out playing all day long with other dogs, appropriately grouped by age and size and play style.
Right.
So it is a very interactive and stimulating experience, and we really try to focus in the daycare side of things on not only physically stimulating the dogs, but also mentally stimulating the dog. And you can wear a dog out much faster by mentally stimulating them than you can physically stimulating. But it's very, very important to combine both of those elements into an interactive daycare experience. So boarding and daycare are certainly two of the biggest key services that we offer. Grooming can be anything, from a quick, nail trim or ear cleaning, all the way to a full groom, which would be, a bath, a brush out, a haircut, ears, nails, the works. So grooming is certainly, I'd say it's probably our third most utilized service and rapidly growing. People are becoming much more aware of the health and wellness benefits to proper grooming routine. 4 to 6 weeks is the typical cadence that most dogs need. And then we also offer obedience training. It could be everything from private one-on-one lessons in your home, private one-on-one lessons in our location, group classes. We have the in-home services, which would be dog walking or overnight pet sitting or pet transportation. And then lastly, we have a retail store, which we've worked really hard to procure what we believe to be the best foods, toys, treats, accessories, over-the-counter medicine, supplements, you name it. So every product that we carry, it serves a purpose. So when you come in as a pet owner and may not even realize that there's something that you can prove from a health and wellness or nutrition perspective with your pet, we have products there to help with that. And, we're very proud that, a lot of our customers who come in and maybe it's a, first time or two when they drop off for boarding, they're dropping off their dog with their, specialty food from a veterinarian and then, 2 or 3 prescription medications that are meant to address a variety of different issues. And we typically, over the course of several weeks or months, are able to transition them into another food and then through other supplements and over-the-counter medications and taking more of a homeopathic approach, get them pretty much off of all prescription foods and medications and actually seeing much better results, which obviously is the ultimate goal. So we really look at it as a 360-degree approach to helping owners be as loyal to their dog as they can be and allow them to be the best owner they can be.
And speaking of dogs as an industry, Jesse, I don't know the numbers, but I imagine, your industry, it's safe to say it's a pretty big industry. And, it seems like there's always a little bit of growth in your industry as well, isn't there?
For sure. So it was actually somewhat surprising, I think, to even us in the industry, especially over the last few years. Obviously the pandemic was extremely challenging for almost all businesses and certainly ours where, on average, 40% of our revenues come from overnight boarding. And when people stopped traveling during the pandemic, that meant that there was really no boarding to be had. So, but the industry numbers as a whole, we've seen incredible growth. So the newest numbers just came out for 2021. But as you go back a little bit, U.S. pet spending was at about $97 billion in 2019. It went up to $103 billion in 2020. And then the numbers that just came out for 2021 are $123 billion. So it grew by $20 billion from 2020 to 2021, despite the pandemic and everything else. So yes, people, I personally think it's you hear in the news that, there's 1 million new dogs out there. And if anyone, out there tried to adopt or rescue or purchase a pet, over the pandemic, it was very challenging. The inventory was extremely limited, which is great, So that did lead to what they're estimating, more than 1 million new dogs in the U.S. But I think it's more than that. I think it's also, we were just, stuck inside or trapped at home for the last, 12, 18, however long with our pets. And have such a better appreciation for what the dogs need and maybe recognize they're not as well behaved as we thought or, have engaged in new types of activities to connect with our dog. And as we are now starting to go back to work and back to school and back to wherever it may be, the dog, to your point, which is so quickly risen the social hierarchy is at the very front of our minds, and we are looking for, okay, what's Fluffy going to do today when I go to work? So I think that which was certainly a big driver in our industry before the pandemic has been magnified, and the Dog Stop is perfectly positioned to capitalize on that, given all the different services that we offer and kind of that one-stop shopping experience.
Do you think, it sounded like you kind of maybe hinted upon it, but was COVID attributed to that growth, you think, Jesse, to some extent? Because that is significant growth. One of the themes we've mentioned throughout, the 15 years of doing the show is look towards the industry. And when you hear those numbers, they're so impressive. But do you think COVID had something to do with it?
Yeah, I do. I think, I think just, us, humans is by nature, with all that time spent at home and, with our devices, there was a lot of,
that's what I was thinking.
learning and research to be done and gravitating towards our interests and getting more involved in pets, dogs in particular, especially with millennials who is, one of the fastest growing ownership segments of dogs. I think there was a lot of time and effort put into, again, how do I become a better pet owner? How do I connect with my dog better? How do I, improve upon, his life and therefore my own and so on and so forth. So I do think, that certainly has added to it. And, it's interesting. I forget if it's JP Morgan or Morgan Stanley, but they now have a desk in their New York headquarters that's specifically devoted to the pet industry in the U.S. And they're projecting that by 2030, I believe they're projecting it will be a $250 billion industry. So that is basically doubling from where we are now in 2022 over the last 8 years. So no signs of slowing down.
Right. Those numbers are so impressive. How has technology played a role in your business today, Jesse? Whether it's social media or just, I'm sure you're using technology different today than, back in 2009, but what role does technology play in the Dog Stop?
Yeah, we've always tried to lean in as heavily as we can. Again, going back to that transparency, which I feel is so important. One of the easiest ways I feel that you can do that is to provide the live webcam. So at any time during the day, people can log in and see their dog, running around and playing in our facilities. And certain kennels even have cameras on them, so you can, watch your dog sleep at night if you like to, 24/7 access. So that has always been something that even in the early days we believed in. Certainly, as you mentioned, social media is huge for us, just being able to connect with the pet parents out there. And not only is it an extension on that ability to create optimal transparency, but it's a huge marketing tool as well, obviously, because people love to share pictures of their pets and when they're having a great time, and we capture wonderful events at the Dog Stop. We share them and then they share, and those things really spread around and are a great way to build new customers. But as we've kind of grown and matured, we brought in an investor partner last year who we're super excited about, and they're really going to help us kind of leverage technology and really kind of expand upon what we have been doing. And pet care in general has largely been a very untechnological industry. There's just only so many ways that you can really integrate the technology with pets, taking out the whole veterinary side of things. But we have a whole bunch of projects underway that we're super excited about that will really, again, increase the transparency and give pet owners just so much more insight into how their dogs are doing and what their dogs are doing, and kind of, create some, kind of benchmarks for, their pets from a health and wellness perspective and vitals and things like that. And, at the end of the day, everybody wants a healthy dog. And, just like humans, you got to achieve that through, some level of fitness and nutrition. And there's, lots of cool piece of technology out there that we're going to be leveraging to, from a fitness perspective, to be able to provide those insights to their owners while their dog is in our care, and ultimately, hopefully that'll extend to the owners while they're, at home with the dog as well.
One of the biggest challenges, I think, for any franchise, Jesse, again, in doing the show so long now, is finding franchisees that are fit for your model. So that being said, I mean, what types of characteristics or traits are important to you before taking on a new franchisee?
Yeah, I mean, I think, every franchise, has certain, commonalities in terms of you have to be a hard worker and you have to be well capitalized and all that short. But, I often like to think about it as this kind of spectrum of individuals who would potentially be interested in this. So at the one end of the spectrum, you have people who are just, total dog nuts and just obsessed with every dog that they see, and dogs are their world. At the other end of the spectrum, and as we were talking about, how this industry is growing so rapidly, you have the Wall Street, banker who doesn't really care about dogs but thinks it's a great business and wants to get involved. Right. So obviously, either end of that spectrum probably not going to be as successful as they could, just because at the dog end of the spectrum, you get so wrapped up and focused on each individual dog that you lose sight of the fact that there's 100 dogs in the building and that this is a business. And in order for you to be able to continue to provide care for the long term for all the dogs, that the business has to be successful. The other end of the spectrum, being the Wall Street, side of things, you can't run this business by a P&L. You have to be able to make, those concessions necessary in the name of customer service and building goodwill. And when things go wrong, when dogs get sick, when dogs get injured, when dogs get a bad haircut, when a dog doesn't like the dog that they bought, you give them a refund or you get them back in to fix it. So it sounds like there's a huge middle ground there, but you also at the same time, to be a successful owner in that kind of middle ground, you have to kind of wear both of those hats. When you're talking to the customer, you have to be the dog obsessed person. And when you're running the business and trying to, ensure that, things are going to continue to grow and are sustainable, you have to wear, the Wall Street hat a little bit. So it takes definitely, I'd say, a well-rounded person, but, you got to love dogs, you got to love business. And that's, where I see just in general in franchising and I'm always very cognizant of it is, I think a lot of people underestimate, everybody wants to be an entrepreneur and everybody thinks, that's what they were meant to do. And, unfortunately, I think some people don't realize until it's too late that owning a business is certainly not for everyone. It's very tough. If it was easy, everyone would do it. And, for certain personalities and certain types of people, it can be overwhelming. And especially when you look at businesses like ours, I think sometimes people can fool themselves and just kind of overlook all the things that should be potential red flags, knowing their own personality and how difficult, whether it be employee management or, just the accounting side of things or whatever it may be that may not, get into their wheelhouse, but they're like, oh, but it's dogs and I'll get to play with dogs every day and this will be great. So, I've learned over the years that it's important to arguably spend just as much time trying to talk somebody out of doing this and pointing out all the red flags as it is into trying to sell it, because at the end of the day, a franchise agreement, it's at least 10 years, and that's way too long to be stuck in an obligation, a commitment that, you're not happy with, and we don't want any regrets. So, to your point, there's a big spectrum of people who can find tremendous success with us and in this industry. But it's also, just important to be honest with yourself and recognize that, yes, this is going to be great. I'm going to bring a much needed service to my community, and it involves dogs, which I love and I'm passionate about. But this is still a business, and it's not, it's not all roses. So
it sounds like you learned that too. I mean, dogs were certainly your passion. I mean, weren't they, Jesse? But as you're talking about this, I'm sure you've had all that experience as an entrepreneur, didn't you? You said, I think it's great that you went into something that you were so passionate about, and you get to work with dogs every day. But the entrepreneurial side is what you're saying is much more challenging than people expect or anticipate, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, especially, until your organization reaches a certain size, you know what I mean? When, a lot of people find themselves in this, okay, we're too small for this or we're too small for that. And once I get there, this will be much better. But, that sometimes takes months or years for people to get to the point where they can bring in other people to help them with those elements of running a business that they may not enjoy doing or that may bring them, stress and anxiety. So there's no doubt. I mean, it is, there's no other industry that I would see myself as a part of. Being able to do something that you love and that you're passionate about is huge. And I certainly recommend that to anyone out there who is looking to get, involved in their own business and kind of pursue their entrepreneurial dreams. Make sure it is something that you love, that you care about, that you're passionate about. And, if that's the case, the money will come. But, I find that for most people, if you just chase the dollars and you're not as worried about the content of what is producing those dollars, it's going to be much less fulfilling and you're likely to burn out much faster.
What is the training like, Jesse? I mean, once you decide that you want to come on board as a franchisee, so do they come out to Pittsburgh for that, or is that how that works?
Yeah, so really, I mean, our support, I tried to build a program here that, again, not knowing, where our franchisees are coming from or what their background may be, that is built to support in any and all aspects of the kind of startup process. So, initially, right after signing, we get on with the real estate team. We start the site selection process. As we, hone in on locations, we get the project management and architect and construction team involved to, start, identifying potential costs of each property. But as we, and of course, the moment a lease is signed and we have a physical address, that's when all the marketing kicks in and we start promoting the location and coming soon. Also, more or less from day one, we start you in. We have a program that kind of gets our franchisees, up to speed on, the who, what, when, where, and why of the dog stop. So as they go out in the community, they can start, becoming that brand ambassador that we would like them to be. But when we get into the real kind of, operational side of things and that training, yes, we have a huge online learning management system, kind of an online school. A huge video archive of training videos and things. So we want to cover as much as possible of the classroom materials prior to coming to Pittsburgh so that we can really focus on in-store operations. So, there's probably 40 or 50 hours worth of coursework that happens prior to coming to Pittsburgh. And then the owner, along with, 2 to 4 kind of management level employees, comes to Pittsburgh for a week. And again, it's probably at this point about 85% in-store hands-on operations. So they really get to, kind of learn on the job as opposed to, just learning from a classroom. And then we are back on site. So that usually happens about somewhere 3 weeks to a month prior to the opening of the store. We want it to be fresh in your mind and not have, too many people on payroll for, prior to the store opening. And then we're on site for the week of the grand opening, a few days before and a few days after, just to ensure that there's smooth opening. And we send out a variety of personnel for that opening to kind of ensure that, all of the different disciplines are understood and being run properly. And then there's a lot of ongoing support. Obviously that online school is always available to new employees coming on. That's great. And we're constantly updating that coursework and we do a lot of visits and we have, weekly check-ins and monthly calls and all kinds of things to ensure that no franchisee is ever, unable to find the support that they need to flourish in their business.
That's great. Is there such thing as a typical day, Jesse? I'm sure every day is probably a little bit different, but I'm sure there's some similarities as well. How would you describe maybe a typical day as a Dog Stop franchisee?
Yeah, and it's something that's probably evolving a little bit. When we started off, we had more what I would call owner-operators. And, we kind of learned a lesson which, it's one of the more cliched adages in the business world, but it's just so incredibly true for us, especially. And that is, it's really hard to work on the business when you're stuck working in the business. So, we've been kind of transitioning and correspondingly finding a lot of success as our owners kind of transition to a semi-absentee role. So as opposed to finding themselves a job and being the general manager who's there, 40, 50 hours a week and stuck behind the counter, we are putting in place management teams who really run the day-to-day operations, and the owner is then able to focus on those bigger picture tasks, supporting their operations team focusing more on marketing, the financial administration, and really business development. There's a tremendous amount of kind of what I call organic or grassroots marketing opportunities that exist for us in this industry that really move the needle and drive a lot of business to your store, as opposed to, the more traditional and digital marketing, tactics that are out there. So most of our franchisees at this point, I would say, either still have, another job in corporate America, or they have, we actually have a few, we're proud to say, who have recently retired from their corporate job and are kind of managing this, full time now. But we have transitioned to more of a semi-absentee role. So it's more, stopping in the store, making sure everything looks good, 3, 4, 5 days a week, checking in with the general manager, talking to the staff, talking to the customers, those type of kind of, overseeing the actual physical location, and then working with us at corporate to ensure that, our marketing plan is maximized. Really, we like to make sure that everybody is an expert of the numbers of their store, just so they know exactly what's going on, and we're ahead of any, potential, changes in directions or patronage at any of the different service levels. So we're really trying to build a little bit more of a manage the manager type of system. And, that's really proven to work extremely well for the last group of franchisees who have come in and gotten open. And, kind of the next wave coming in are all pursuing that same ownership model. And, not only does it allow for greater success at that, first store, but obviously it then sets them up and positions them appropriately to be able to open, second, third stores and help us develop, a larger portion of their market, which, I think is the ultimate goal for most of our franchisees.
Studying your background, Jesse, I can see, you are a real entrepreneur. I mean, from everything you've learned up to this point, because now, I mean, that you're involved in franchising, there's so much out there today, and in doing the show such a long time, we find that a lot of our listeners in the early phases, they're a little bit confused, because there is so much out there. I mean, so from everything you've learned up to this point, what advice would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise? You mentioned passion early on, which of course is important, but is there anything else that you would kind of advise to our listeners?
Yeah, it's a really good question. You're right. I mean, I think it's a combination of factors have led to this just kind of explosion of opportunity for entrepreneurs. And, the internet, I think, has driven a lot of that. That's one really big differentiator between, all right, is this a brick and mortar business, or is this, purely, online or business to business sales, whatever it may be. I mean, passion is huge. I mean, I know it's so cliched, but the whole, you never work a day in your life if you're doing something that you love. Sure. I mean, it's true. I would say also, very important to look at, as you said, the trajectory of the industry that you're entering into, and where, that's one of the things I love about our industry from, a competitive perspective. There's not, these huge players out there that just totally dominate the industry and make it really, really hard for new people to break in. Customers are always going to choose, in pet care perspective, that facility that, meets all of their needs. And a lot of those come down to, the trust and the love and feeling good about it. So, but the passion is so important, finding something that, again, recognizing that, business ownership is probably 70% great and 30% really difficult, and being able to get yourself as comfortable as possible with percent, and knowing, being honest and real with yourself about, how how it's going to affect you and how you're going to deal with it. And, when you talk about franchising more specifically, I don't have to tell you this, there's so many new franchise concepts every year, and just about as many, close the doors every year. And I think, so there's a lot of, I think it's so important to talk to the franchisees of the system. Don't just listen to to me as the owner or the salespeople.
Right,
Make sure
right.
you talk to the franchisees and hear what it's actually like. And I think it's also really important to ask what they did before they were in the franchise, because somebody who owned a bunch of businesses beforehand is probably going to have a much easier go of things than somebody who has no business ownership experience. So ask the franchisor to connect you with people who have a very similar background and situation to where you are coming from, because that is most likely going to mimic your first few months and years more accurately than somebody who's owned 10 other franchises before. And then lastly is just kind of a word of caution is just I always like to inquire about sold to open ratios. I think that's a potential big red flag for some brands, and I said it earlier. A lot of people go into franchising with really good intentions, but somewhere along the way they get hung up with different development professionals who say, okay, well, in order for this to work, we got to sell a ton of these, and they sell, and lose sight of the fact that that's only well and good if you can support all those franchisees and get them open and they find success. So sold to open ratio, I think, is an important, just when selecting a brand, because there's so many choices.
Right.
That's arguably one of the biggest decisions you make is which brand you hitch yourself to, and that's going to be your support team for the foreseeable future. And it's an important decision and not something to rush into.
So if you can look into a crystal ball, Jesse, I mean, maybe 3 years, 1 year, 5 years down the road, I mean, where do you see the dog stop?
Yeah, I mean, so as I mentioned earlier, we brought in a new partner who's helped us not only by bringing capital to the table, but more importantly, just a ton of incredible operational experience on the franchising side of things. I mean, I know my team is as good as it gets from the dog care side of things, and it was important to me to find a partner who could really help us navigate the growth that we knew that was coming from a franchise perspective, and our new partners have done that. They've built best-in-class systems in several different industries, most recently in the fitness space with Orange Theory Fitness. We definitely have some exciting growth ahead of us. We're off to a really strong start here in 2022. We've already sold roughly 15 territories in 2022. So I think where we are right now, we have 22 stores open. We should be at about 30 by the end of this year. Next year, I think we'll probably open somewhere in the 15 to 20 range, putting us close to 50 total open. The year after that, we'll probably double that up, and aim to open probably 30 or 40, and kind of continue on that, within reason, growing, roughly, 2x what we had done the year before, to the point where, hopefully we have, 150, 200 of these open in the next 5 to 7 years. I think that's very, very realistic and achievable. And we've built a support staff that'll certainly allow us to get there over the next 2 or 3 years. And we continue to add and build our internal team as if we already had 100 franchisees, even though we only have 20. And I think that's the only way that you can ensure that you can handle the growth that lies ahead. So we're all about putting the cart ahead of the horse from a support perspective, and we feel that if we do that, all of our franchisees will be successful, and the growth in sales will come accordingly.
What's the best way, Jesse, for our listeners to get more information on the Dog Stop? I mean, of course, there's the franchise opportunity, but even the services itself. I mean, any websites you can kind of direct them to? Yeah,
just thedogstop.com. It's from there you can search and see if we have a location near you yet. Hopefully we do. Okay. We're in 12 states so far and rapidly growing. And then, there's also, plenty of information on that same website, obviously, for franchise opportunities. If anyone would like to connect, they'll be speaking to me very early on. I get involved in the process very early because, again, I think it's very important. So thedogstop.com is the place to go to learn all about us.
Well, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed talking to you today, Jesse. And I'd like to invite you back, if it's okay, over the next year or two as you continue to grow, because I think this is a wonderful franchise opportunity.
Thank you, Marty. I really enjoyed it as well, and look forward to connecting with you again sometime soon.
This has been my pleasure, Jesse. We'll be right back with more franchise interviews.
Coming up on segment 2, you're going to hear what every franchipreneur needs to know before buying a franchise. We're going to play a clip from our popular Great Quotes in Franchising podcast right here on Franchise Interviews.
Franchisers, are you looking to reach aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Are you looking to reach a highly educated audience on franchising? Franchise Interviews, an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Our weekly franchise radio show where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys, and our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Today's Great Quote in Franchising is being brought to you by
Franchise Teacher.
Would you like to know how to franchise your concept or grow your franchise business?
Meet the experts at Franchise Teacher.
The goal of Franchise Teacher is to teach, coach, consult, and advise. The team of experts at Franchise Teacher will evaluate your business model and present you with a winning business strategy.
Franchise Teacher will help you decide whether or not your concept works and if it's franchisable. Franchise Teacher is proud to have over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors.
Franchise Teacher are developers of over a dozen franchise systems, which include brick and mortar as well as home-based concepts of nearly 3,000 combined franchise locations.
Whether you need to add more units or get more customers, Franchise Teacher can help. We will teach.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn our proven system.
Coach.
Franchise Teacher will help you provide a game plan to succeed.
Consult.
Franchise Teacher will make sure you stay on track.
And advise.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn from our over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors. Take advantage of our free, no-obligation phone consultation. Simply go to franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
That's franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
Hi, everyone. This is Marty McDermott, the president of Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising, where each podcast you get to hear a great quote in franchising. You know, we've been hosting Franchise Interviews many years now, and during that time, we've had some incredible quotes on our show. Today, you're going to get to hear from Nick Friedman, who is the founder of College Hunks Hauling and Junk and Moving Franchise Opportunity. And Nick said something really quite brilliant on our show that we haven't heard in over a decade of doing franchise interviews. We started speaking about the 4 F's of franchising, and interesting enough, we ended up with 5 F's of franchising as we were doing the interview with Nick. And, you know, in marketing, we talk about the 4 P's of marketing, which is product, price, promotion, and place. So I thought this was really brilliant what Nick said. So here we go with Nick Friedman, the founder of College Hunks Hauling and Junk Moving Franchise Opportunity.
History.
What, you know, the majority of our listeners, we call them aspiring franchipreneurs. What types of characteristics do you look for in your franchisees?
You know, what I like to say is there's 4 F's when considering a franchise, which is also, I guess, starts with a letter F. So, you know, there's 4 F's that come out of franchise. And I think this is what a prospective franchise should think of when they're considering what franchise they want to pursue. And this is, quite frankly, I think what franchisors should consider when they're evaluating a prospective franchisee. So the first F is fit. You know, do they fit? In other words, do they have transferable skills that can make them effective at this business? Have they done anything in their prior professional or personal lives that would make them be successful in this type of business? The second piece is the family side. In other words, does their family support them in them pursuing this endeavor, whether it's their husband or wife or kids or parents? You know, do they believe in them? Because you don't want things to get tough in their inner circle to say, I told you so. You want them to, you know, kind of cheer them on to get through it. The financial piece is important. In other words, are they capitalized to be able to invest in the opportunity, and do they have realistic financial expectations? And then the last F is the fun factor. You know, can we have fun working with this individual? You know, franchising very much like a partnership, even though that's not typically called that. You got to have, an alignment of vision and values to be able to enjoy working together. So that's really what we look for. We want people that believe in the secret sauce that we've already developed. We don't want somebody to come tell us that they think it should be done differently. We want them to tell us that they believe in what we've created. And sure, we would, want to continuously improve and encourage ideas, but we want folks that believe in the system and are going to execute the system rather than trying to shortcut success by doing it their own way. And I think that's, really no different in our system than any other franchise model that is going to be successful long term. They need to really take into account those factors.
That's great, Nick. We have this great quotes and franchising podcast. Anytime we hear, Michael Gerber's been in there a couple of times, but we're going to put that one in there because I haven't heard that in over a decade, and I think that's great advice to our listeners. It's really fantastic because it's true. I mean, you could really, your business, you could teach to anybody, couldn't you? I mean, pretty much, but it's interesting in putting those factors in there, like family support, and even fun. I haven't heard that, but it should be an enjoyable business. And, because it is a stressful situation for the customers, I guess you got to be able to put a smile on your customer's face, don't you?
Absolutely. And I mean, as you know, there's over 3,000 franchise opportunities out there. So, what's going to separate one from the other? It's got to be something that you can enjoy. And I guess I'll grab another F out of there. I'm on a roll here. Fulfillment. Is it something that, we're going to be fulfilled doing day in and day out? Because I think franchising is a lot like a gym membership. If you join a gym, you've got fitness goals. You're getting access to all types of equipment, personal trainers, coaches, workout groups, but you still got to go and show up and do the work. So if you buy a franchise, you're getting access to the business model in a box. You're getting access to trainers, coaches, fellow franchisees that you can, hold each other accountable with, but you still got to show up and put in the effort to execute that business model. So that's where I think those factors come into play.
Once you decide that, you do like them, and they like you, Nick, and there is a fit, what is the training like? I mean, do they typically come to Florida for training? How does that work? If you'd like to hear that whole interview with Nick Friedman of the College Hunks Hauling and Junk Moving franchise opportunity, all you have to do is go to franchiseinterviews.com, go to our franchise interviews by category page, and then go to our home repair and improvements page, and you'll be able to listen to that whole show with Nick Friedman. It was really a fantastic interview. It was great to finally have Nick on the show. And lastly, we'd just like to thank everyone for making this podcast such a big hit. It's hard to imagine we've been doing it now over 10 years, and it's just amazing to see where the podcast has gone. So thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you again soon with another edition of Great Quotes and Franchising, sponsored by Franchise Interviews. Take care, everyone.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews.